All right. Okay, Parker. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Kim.
You're our first guest. Do you know that?
What? Come on.
I know.
That's an honor. Thank you.
Handpicked. Yeah. So, this topic is really one of my favorites. I don't know if you even know this, and it's customer service.
Okay.
Right. So, in our first business, we really got to become really well known based on our customer service. And since then, I watch and I pay attention to other people and how they are with their customer service. And it kind of drives me crazy. And you're probably the same just because I've watched you. I'm not even a customer, right?
Well, no, good thing, because that would have meant you've been in a car accident. So thankfully, you're not hurt in a car accident.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I've been watching and I'm like, this guy really has it going on. And I love that. So why don't you, for people that don't know you, even though for those that are in our community, everybody knows Parker Layrisson, tell us who you are and talk about your business a little bit.
Well, you know how when people get in a car crash, you probably know they struggle to pay their medical bills. It can be an overwhelming experience, very debilitating. Well, I run a law firm in Ponchatoula that has a 3-step plan for helping people get back on their feet. We help them to pay their bills, to save time, to take care of their business so they can get back to their families and just living life like they used to. That's all we do. We are not a law firm that does wills on Mondays, DWIs on Tuesdays, whatever on Wednesdays. 24/7, we're handling one type of case.
Okay. Yep.
So that's it. Well, small town personal injury lawyer, probably the only personal injury lawyer that does just that, but does not do TV commercials, radio ads, billboards, any of that typical marketing that you see.
Well, that's a really great segue, because the reason why I told Brian that I thought you'd be a great person to interview was because of my perception of your customer service. And you're right. I don't see your marketing the way that I see every other attorney doing their marketing. So, it's your thoughtfulness, I think, towards your customers and your potential customers, that's coming from somewhere. So where did it come from? Because I would imagine when you get out in business, you think, okay, I have to do the typical marketing, but you're really doing it different. So where's that come from?
My mom, as a mom, maybe appreciate that. And I mean that not just in the traditional how she raised me way, but the reason I do this type of case and nothing else is because I saw my mom go through this.
Okay.
I used to be a lawyer who did a number of things, not everything under the sun, but those things that would pay me the best, I'd do it typically, within reason. And then I saw my mom go through a car accident. She was rear-ended by an underinsured motorist, and even though she had been paying her insurance company for 40 years on time every month without question, suddenly they're asking her all these questions and distrusting her and treating her poorly. And so it just kind of made what I do personal to me. And so what I try to do is apply an approach of how would I want my mom to be treated. Because I noticed when we handled her case, there was just a little bit more skip in the step. I loved what I was doing. I mean, it was my mom. So I was fighting all the way and probably doing a better job, proud of what I did. And so now we just try to bring that enthusiasm, that dedication to every case. And, I don't know that we're succeeding, but we're trying. We're doing our best.
Well, it looks like you're succeeding.
Thank you.
From the outside looking in, what I love about it is that, and I'm going to share some examples in a little bit, but it's in the culture of your company. Like, it's not just in Parker. It's in everybody that is a part of your team. So how did you get customer service to be such a vital part of the culture of your firm?
Part of it's probably hiring process. We have what some people have told me is a really obnoxious hiring process, in that we put on Facebook, we're not looking for lazy people that want to leave 10 minutes early. You've seen that ad. So that's part of it. What we're trying to do is repel your typical lazy 9-to-5er and get really self-starters. And the other thing is we try to hire people that have been through this experience. Most of our staff has either been in a car wreck or had a family member be in a car wreck, or suffered some type of loss or personal injury. So they empathize with our clients on a different level. And somebody just, theoretically thinks about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've seen that on your website, and I love your ads when you're hiring somebody. I've seen that. I remember
Not everybody does, so I'm glad you do.
Well, that's, you know what, though? They don't have to apply. Like, company culture is a big deal, and that's a whole nother podcast that we could go into and talk about. But it's exhausting to hire someone.
It is.
When you hire wrong...
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive than hiring a few people right.
Yeah, and even more, it's not even just about the financial part of it, but the time, right? The amount of time it takes to interview people. And so we probably should have you back on another episode where we're talking about HR and your obnoxious
I can tell you the
hiring
many mistakes I made, but I'm really blessed with a great team right now. I mean, we have a great team, and they do a great job, and I can only take a really small part of the credit for that.
Yeah, well, probably speed of the leader, speed of the team, right? So I know one of the things, so I've been kind of following you for a while now, and it's like there's always something different that you're doing or that I catch on to, whether it's how you create a Facebook ad. And
maybe that's a polite way to say I don't have much of a plan or organization.
No, I love
all over the place.
I think it's awesome. Because it's different. It's not the same that everybody else is doing. And so from how you hire to your social media posts, to, I see you've got books right there because I know you're an avid reader, just like Brian. I'm not the big reader in the family, but
can I give you an example of that?
Yes.
Just so you'll, I think this will make you feel better. One of the books I brought is the book I wrote and dedicated to my mom when she got in her accident handbook.
Yep.
Because I wanted to be able to answer questions for people like her beyond, the 100 or so clients that I may have at a time. But so I dedicate this book to my parents. It's 300 and some odd pages for, a guy from Ponchatoula. It was, big work for me. And Mama, of course, is so proud. Her baby boy did it. And she's also at that time living through this.
Yeah.
So she's very interested in the topic. So I give him a book, and I come by the house one time about a month later, and I see my mom's book mark about 250 pages deep. She's tearing through it. And on about page 10, I find a used red popsicle stick where Dad had eaten a popsicle, read about 10 pages, used it as a bookmark, and never gone back. So,
but your mom was deep in the book.
Yeah, but that's his. If some people won't even read their own kids' books, so don't feel bad. That's fine.
Oh, well.
But yeah, I do love to share books, not just mine, but I think you may ask me about another later in the program, and I'm happy to do that.
If Peyton Walker is listening, if I ever write a book, he better read it. That's what I'm saying. So, you've written us notes before, and I'm going to talk about one in a little bit, but how do people react, all right, when they get these?
Truthfully, most people don't because we're busy. So it's not like I'm getting calls saying, "Oh, thank you for the note."
Yeah.
But when I come across someone that I've written a note before, like you, it's always positive. It's something that connects us. I think the key is to be authentic. I'm not going to write you a BS note like, "Oh, you look great today." If your hair was a mess, it's going to be something that I truly mean. Always positive and hopefully uplifting, or some type of gratitude. But the response is pretty great because in this day and age, not many people are getting a handwritten, personalized note. It takes a little time to do. Thankfully, it's very inexpensive.
Yeah.
But it seems to me to be fairly rare in 2018.
Don't you think, though, that simple little gesture that, like you said, didn't cost much, it's not typical of our culture anymore. Everybody wants to send a text or an email. That when you do something like that, and then, I hope I'm not in a car accident, but I'm going to remember of all the attorneys out there, I'm going to remember the ones that, like you did that.
Well, I think it helps develop a connection. And for me, at the end of the day, people are going to buy from folks that they know, like, and trust. And if you want to cross that threshold, you have to earn it. And to trust someone, they have to have a real relationship with you. So whether it's a note, a phone call, I mean, we do a lot of phone calls too. Hey, how you doing? How's this program going, or whatever. Thanks for mentioning that.
Well, I love that you pay attention. Like, I think we're talking about customer service, and some people may be listening going, I thought this was about customer service. You talked about relationships. We talked about special little things that people are doing, but you pay attention. Like, we're not like close friends. Like, we don't hang out. Right. But we're friends on Facebook and we see each other at events and things like that. But Brian and I, we just went to Tennessee for Story Brand.
Right.
And
right.
this isn't even the first handwritten note that we've gotten before, but that's a sturdy, significant, like, when I got this, I'm like, Brian, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And so when we got it, the thing is, it was actually hand delivered. Like, it didn't even come, and you didn't even know that. It didn't even come in the mail. Like, probably, and this speaks to the customer service of the people that you work with, is that they probably were going to the post office.
Yeah.
Which is next door.
And they just stopped by
and
on the
they
way.
probably said, yeah.
That sounds like my assistant. So, yeah.
Yeah,
if she's
in.
listening, nice job, Stephanie. That's,
So, and it's nice. Like, it's just super cool.
Well,
I'll
give you an example, because I think you're hitting on a point here. Like, for it to have impact, it needs to be genuine. You have to notice something real, and then, kind of memorialize that. And for me, the aha moment of customer service, noticing things that don't get noticed, was this. Years ago, my wife and I got married. Best day ever until my 2 boys were born, and so we go on our honeymoon. While I'm gone, we hire a reception service. If they're listening anywhere, Ruby receptionists. They sometimes answer our phones if our staff's overwhelmed. And they're based, I think, Portland, Oregon, somewhere in the upper, northwest corner of the United States. When I get back from my honeymoon, there's an extra wedding gift from my registry, not something random they bought, but Ruby knew, because I left a message, hey, I'm going to be out of town this week on my honeymoon, that I'd just been married. Somebody there stalked me on the internet, found our wedding registry, and bought a present we actually wanted.
Wow.
And I was just blown away. And this is somebody I'd never met in person. We don't spend a ton of money on them because we use them part-time. And I was like, wow, why can't we do that for our clients? And so, we don't do things that dramatic, but we try.
Well,
and
I think
it helps.
Companies get, like you said, we're all so busy, and there's so much to do, and our to-do list is long, and sometimes we're doing more than, as a business owner, you might be the person doing your marketing, you might be the person meeting with the client, you might be the one doing the sales or the account. Like, you do so much that it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the things you have to do to not be in the moment, and in the present, and paying attention to what's going on. And so that's what I was getting around to, is like, you just noticed on social media that Brian and I were at Story Brand in Nashville.
I was so excited and a little jealous, I'll admit, because I did the Story Brand online course, which is exceptional. But it's on my bucket list to do what y'all did. So,
well, when you go, we'll go back with you.
Thank you. I would love that. I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was I'm going to have another guest on to talk about customer service later on, and this is going to lead into the question, which is, what is your biggest wow customer service moment that you've had as the customer? So I'm going to give you some time to think about it. I think I probably spoiled it. It's going to be hard to outdo the wedding gift one. That's true.
But I can tell you that there have been many. That would probably be the one that topped the list, though. Anytime you get personal attention in a world that doesn't often offer. I mean, I use one. This is maybe not the biggest, but just an example. You guys are CrossFitters. You're probably eating a lot better than I am. But everybody gets in a rush once in a while. Compare the drive-thru experience at McDonald's, Wendy's, wherever you go, and Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is just jam up, doing it better every time. So I try to look for little examples like that. They don't all have to be grandiose, spend $100 on a fancy wedding gift. Right. I'll give you another one. This is my mother treats with some excellent doctors in Hammond, because she was injured. And if Karen Willison's listening out there with Advanced Pain Institute of Hammond, I think she was behind this, but this was really cool. So, I've gotten to know them as they've treated my mom, and over the years, they have great doctors. But when my first son, Luke, was born, they knew that I was a Yankees fan. And so we get shipped in the mail, Luke's first week born, a custom-made Louisville Slugger. It says Future All-Star, New York Yankees with the logo. My son's name, my son's birthday.
Wow.
That's wow.
That is wow.
So, but again, they paid attention when they.
Yep.
How did they glean that little fact that I like the Yankees? I thought that was really cool.
Well, and now with social media, it's really not that hard to figure somebody out. If there's somebody you really like, for anybody listening, if you're thinking, if I said, who's your top client, or who's a client you want to be your top client, somebody you want to just nurture that relationship with, really stalk them.
Yeah.
You'll find out more than you want to know, and it makes it easier to really,
You're right.
Even 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. So it's really, so I'm going to tell you about mine. And, oh my gosh. So, Brian and I, we love the beach.
Right. I'm not going to say the exit or area because
please
I know
don't.
It's off limits, Brian.
Yeah.
Somebody messed that up last podcast. Not going to name names. But I won't do that to you, Kim.
I have people messaging me saying, you need to keep the secret
I noticed you pulled him off camera. Like I knew he messed up, but I didn't know how drastic it was until I showed up and there was no third chair.
It's punishment time. So that's exactly right. Yeah.
And if that can happen to the CEO, I know just a guest. Who knows?
Be careful. Be careful. Yeah, don't say. But that place, there's a restaurant there. And we were there in January when we were doing the Whole 30, which is a whole nother.
Okay.
Like the Whole 30 is intense, clean eating.
Okay.
Right? So we're out to eat at a restaurant, and we're telling the guy, his name is Jess, and he was just I was almost in tears by this guy's. It's a restaurant.
Yeah.
This isn't. And it's in a very highly traveled area, so you don't know if you're ever going to see this person again. I'm thinking as a server, they see all these people, and he's probably thinking, I'm never going to see this person again. What he doesn't know is that in one exchange with my family, I honestly almost cried. It was so powerful the way that he treated us, the way he communicated with us. The
you
way
might
he
want to
took
make
care
clear
of
that
us.
these are good tears of joy before he gets fired. Cause
oh no, they know because I've already reached out to them.
Just making sure. I don't want to see.
That's a good point.
The best
No,
waiter
it was
on earth lose his
amazing.
job.
It was incredible, and then
What did he do to make it so incredible?
So he just spent time with us. He wasn't in a rush.
Yeah.
You get to a restaurant and they're like, "Okay, what do you want to drink? And what's your order?" And he slowed down. And he was at our pace. He absolutely cared. Speaking of Karen, we told him, because he was trying to sell us on all these delicious dishes, and this is so good, and you have to have this. And we were like, well, we're doing Whole 30. And he's like, oh my goodness. All right, let me figure out. And he started creating dishes. He was like, well, you can try this and you can try that. And then he just started talking to us about our life. Like, where are y'all from? How often do you come? And then you turn the tables, and I started talking to him, and I'm asking him, and he goes off and does his thing, and he comes back, and I asked him again. I'm like, well, so what's your story?
Yeah.
And this guy's a veteran, first of all. Secondly, I asked him, so this is right over the course of breakfast. So he goes off, does his thing, he comes back. So we keep asking questions. And finally, I was like, Jess, like, your customer service is ridiculous. Like, it's amazing. Where's that come from? And where, like, okay, here's a shout out to moms. His mom.
Come on.
It was his mom. And
Seriously?
so here, I'm sitting there with my son. So I'm like, Peyton, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You need to listen to your mom. But it came back. He was raised in a if I remember correctly, a single parent home. And he just wanted to honor his mom, and he knew that how you treat people is important. And then he said, you're not here to hear my story about, he said, life's hard. And I go through times where things are difficult. You're here to eat breakfast with your family and make a memory. You don't want to hear how hard life is for me.
Yeah.
So he was able to come to work and cut off his pain to make somebody else's experience spectacular. And I was just unbelievably moved by his story.
That's amazing.
And so I'm going to get him on our podcast to talk about it.
Yeah, you should. That's incredible.
So I wanted to talk about our experiences. Like, you talked about yours that translate into how you do business.
Yeah.
So,
and it works on so many levels. I'll give you an example. Long before my mom became a client, she's obviously always been my mom, but before I was born, she was a legal secretary in Baton Rouge. And so, when I became an attorney, she kind of sat me down and said, Parker, there's some good attorneys, but there's some real jerks that treat their staff poorly, and here's what I don't want you to do. And so my point is, you can just use that. So with my staff and everything we do, it's how would I want if my mom were sitting at that front desk,
right?
So that when it's time to make hard decisions, like recently we expanded our paid maternity leave program for an employee who had only been with the firm a month. That's hard and expensive to do.
Yep.
But when you think about it, it's like, well, if it was my mom, I know she'd be there forever afterwards. And, you might be paying for 3 of the first 4 months without getting any return.
Yep.
But pay it forward and you'll, and it works almost every time. It's just, it's a great measure.
Keep bringing up relationships, and it's about respecting people too. Like, especially if you have someone that's working with you that gets it.
Right.
And they're doing a great job. You want them, like, I know when, JR bought a house, like, I was so happy that he bought a house, right? Or Karen just recently bought a car. Like, those things happen. You have to celebrate those moments, and it creates this great culture in your company that I know sometimes when I go, like you talked about Chick-fil-A versus, say, McDonald's, the people at Chick-fil-A are happy to be there.
Yeah.
At another drive-through that I went to, they weren't happy to be there.
Right.
So I think it has a lot to do with your company culture.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, I mean, you guys have it. I think this weekend you had a company wedding, right? I mean, how cool is it to see those photos on Facebook?
Awesome.
Yeah, but I think you're right. People are going to be happier when they go to work with that type of culture, and they're going to, quote, take it out on your clients or customers one way or the other.
Right.
So if they're unhappy, they're going to give you that McDonald's.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, McDonald's, please don't sue
I know.
me. But I'm just using the most,
right.
Generic fast food experience. It's not Chick-fil-A. I don't mean to be hate on them, but when they do love it there, they're so much more likely to take care of your people.
So we're kind of sort of combining customer service into company culture. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah.
If your company culture is bad, I don't see a way to make good customer service with that.
And I don't think that, when you lay out what your core values are, I don't think we say, like, customer service is not one of our core values.
Right.
But everything else is, right? So when you think about one of our core values is happiness.
Right.
Well, if you're a happy person, that's, like you said, that's going to translate to the customer.
Sure.
So do you have anything else relating to the culture or how you, because you can't really.
Well, you mentioned core values. It's, it's in there. Our first core value is we put our client's interests first, which sounds like, duh, lawyers are supposed to do that. But
well, everybody's supposed to do that.
Well, it is,
but
and it's
don't.
tough. It's when the rubber meets the road of, for example, in the injury world, Louisiana is a very poor state. If I can give just, I will bore you with legal tips.
No,
if you
that's
only
okay.
learn one thing from having a lawyer on, learn this. Buy as much uninsured motorist coverage as you can, because in Louisiana, most people on the road are underinsured. About half of them are either no insurance or minimum coverage. So if they hit you like they did my mom, the guy who hit her, like half the state,
it's on her.
Minimum coverage. She's got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much time to rack up $15,000, which is minimum coverage in bills. But my point is, from a customer service perspective, it's easy to say put the clients first, but what about that case where it's so badly underinsured because they had $10,000 in hospital bills and there's only $15,000 in insurance?
Yeah.
Well, if a lawyer comes in expecting to take a third of the money, like the contract says, the client gets nothing. It's bad. So you have to put your clients first.
Yep.
And so for us, that means often, ouch, we got to reduce this fee and maybe make half or less what we feel like we deserve so that the client doesn't get screwed. And so whatever your industry, you got to have values that put them first.
Well, but it all comes back to what you said in the very beginning when you said putting the customer first. That's your mom.
Right.
I'm going to treat, how would I want my mom to be treated? Yeah. And it's, what do we call it? The golden rule, right?
Right.
But it's so, like, it's such a lost, it's like an art form. I think customer service. And it's funny, we talked about Chick-fil-A, right? My son is 15 and he works at Chick-fil-A.
Oh, come on, I didn't know.
Yeah. He started when he was
In
14.
Hammond?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And oh my gosh, I don't know what they did to him, but he's 15 now, but we'll be on vacation.
Yeah.
And go through wherever, a coffee shop, it doesn't matter. my 15-year-old is evaluating customer service everywhere he goes.
That's amazing.
And he'll say, "Oh, I would never do that," and then he'll explain why, and here's what I know about that, and it blows my mind. So it's really just about being people, and this whole art form of customer service. It's really sad that I'm calling it that because it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not hard to just care about people.
Well, I think that if you hit the nail on the head that it's kind of your focus, whether you're using your mom as the reason or whether it's just let's look at the experience this person's having and make that paramount. And as long as your focus is on someone else, the golden rule style,
right,
you're going to end up with a good product. One thing that impresses me about Chick-fil-A is I understand it. Their big, expensive research and development facility is not designed to squeeze more money out of each customer. It's designed to inject more great experience into each, so it's not, hey, how much more can we charge for a chicken sandwich? It's, this is what we're charging. How much more value can we get with it? And they've come up with all these little things. Oh, busy soccer mom.
I know, right?
This is going to be ready when you walk in here. So
it's
you don't
amazing.
have to deal with the stress, and you don't pay a penny more for it.
Or that app.
Yeah.
Have you used the app?
No, I haven't because, I'm not a busy soccer mom yet. My kids don't.
Okay, well, you're a busy guy, let me tell you.
But I will. I know I will. My staff tells me about it. They love it.
So it's the funniest thing. But again, it's customers. It's anticipating their needs, right? So that's, if we were sharing customer service tips, I think it's one of them is anticipate your customers' needs. What are they going to be asking for in the future? I don't want them to ask me for it. I want to come to them with the solution. And so we were traveling in the area where we, keeping it a secret, we like to travel.
Area 51, we'll call it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. So we were in Area 51, and Peyton, of course, really wants Chick-fil-A, and it's breakfast time.
So, of course, it was Sunday, because when you really want Chick-fil-A, it's always Sunday.
Always.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, on this day, it wasn't a Sunday because they were open.
Okay.
And we come up to this Chick-fil-A, and the line, of course, insanely long. I'm talking about the drive-through because we were going to drive through. No, we weren't going to drive through. We were going to go in because I had the camper with us. So we pull up, and the line, though, is crazy long, like the double looped around kind of line.
Okay.
So I get out and walk in, and I see the line inside the store. And I'm like, I am not.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting in this line. I'd forgotten about the app. So I walk out and I go tell Brian, I'm like, I don't think I'm not getting this line. Can we go somewhere else? Peyton's like, no, I got to have Chick-fil-A. So I go back, and at this point I see the sign. There's like a sign in the, a yard sign kind of thing. And it talks about the app. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about the app. I literally walk back to the truck, stand there. What do you want? I place the order on the app. I walk back in, and I stand under the sign that says mobile app. The funny thing is the people that saw me come in a minute before, they saw, and then they saw me walk out and come back in, and they're like, what is she doing? They have not moved in line, but I walk in, and the people are holding my bag, and they say, Kim, here's your order.
Oh, wow, that's powerful.
But, I'm busy, saving time. I'm getting what I want.
Yeah.
And I'm winning the day for my family, who's like, it's anticipating those needs and knowing what people are looking for. So I just love how people that get customer service, there's so many different, what are some things that you've noticed about businesses? You're like, that's good customer service. So obviously we've talked about just treating people kindly, being a good person, anticipating their needs. Is there anything else you can think of that's just good customer service?
Yeah, I think we've covered most bases. And, I think we've already covered it, but, just hiring great people. I think like here locally in the area, a place I'm really blown away by is Rolette Chiropractic Clinic. My best friend, Will, he's my bookkeeper. He comes in sometimes and you could tell he's feeling great. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, oh, I just, had my adjustment. And it's not just that he got a great adjustment. It's just the whole experience there is great. Well, as I've gotten to know them, I've noticed, I know several of their employees. There's Melissa, who I know well because her husband worked with my dad for 20 years at the sheriff's office. Just great family. She's been there 20 years. She knows her stuff inside and out. You know, she's a big plus. There's Emily, who was actually the editor of this book for me. One of the smartest people I've ever met. Her genes are so good. Her brother is literally a rocket scientist.
Oh,
like
I know
NASA
Emily.
You know Emily?
Yeah.
She's just out.
Emily writes for us.
Yeah, we were high school classmates. She's off the charts. But she works, it's just like they're collecting a stable of great people.
Yeah.
Now, the only way you can keep great people is you have to treat them right. They deserve a ton, and they're going to get it in the marketplace. Right. But, you know, things like that, just put together a great team. Y'all have done it. They've done it. You know,
it's really not that
trying
hard.
to do it. But it takes, I think to me, the key is it takes time, it takes energy, and usually it takes money. I mean, it's hard to get people. You have to at least pay them fair, if not pay them great. So, yeah, you have to do these things.
So you're talking about the things that you can do. What would you say to those that are listening, a company that maybe they haven't really paid attention to their customer service? What is something that they can do just to get started? Do you have any thoughts
I always
on that?
like to start with free. You know, for me, because I built my business from the ground up from nothing. With little help from my parents and no law partners or anything like that. But for me, it would start with the call, you know, the give a crap call. Can I say crap on your podcast? Sorry, Brian, please edit that if I can.
I don't think we have to put an E for explicit if somebody says crap. So
but basically, you know, it costs nothing to call somebody and say, how are you doing? And if you don't, you know, you could start with friends and family. If you've got former clients, call former clients. But just let people know, here I am, I care. Yeah. Kim, Brian, how was your trip to Tennessee? I saw you went, you know. Do that. The card, which you mentioned earlier, that moves from free to cheap. You know, it can be nice. Right. But a simple card is, you know, you can get one for 50 cents. You pay another 50 cents for a stamp for $1 a day. You've got a personal card that people don't have. You know, you start there. Just meaningful interactions, and then make it smart. Maybe keep a list, so that you're not accidentally calling Kim every 2 weeks. Right. Turning it into a burden.
Parker, you just called me last week.
Yeah. But to me, that's the place to start. And just be real. And if you put that person's interest as your focus, and you're real, and you put a little time and energy into it, you got the secret sauce. We
were talking earlier this year about the trends of 2018, and one of them that I used in a presentation was authenticity. Yeah. And you were just talking about just be real, just be yourself. And I laughed about that. And Brian actually laughed when I first told him, you know, the trend is going to be authenticity. He was like, they've been talking about that for like 3 years. That's not this year. The difference this year is actually doing it, is actually being. Like we've been talking about it. People have been talking about being authentic in their marketing for years, but this is supposedly the year where people actually get on board and really do it. So I love that. And you talked about,
well, I think if you try it, you see it works. It's like for us, lawyers, what do you usually see? I think we mentioned earlier, a TV commercial of a guy in his best suit, kind of pounding his chest and bragging a lot. Right. You know, it's like, I try the most cases. I get my clients the most money.
And they're all the same.
I'm the smartest. And it's like, one, I mean, you guys know websites. You can make a great website and make a bad lawyer look really good. Like, it's hard to, like, the key is some lawyers are the perfect lawyer for that client. And you may not need, most of my clients don't want to go to court. So they don't want the guy who's tried the most cases. Right. They want a great deal that can keep them out of court, save them time, help them pay their bills, all that. Like, so, but if you're real, you're going to find the right match. But you kind of have to throw yourself out there. It's kind of like dating, right? Until you get to your real, authentic self, you're not going to be ready for the perfect match. Because if you're fronting, you're going to attract the bad match that wants that kind of person.
And that's another thing that we talked about when I was talking about being authentic, and you just said being, you know, putting on that front. It's so much work to be fake.
Yeah.
Right. That's a lot. That's
I'm not
hard.
Smart enough to keep up with being fake. You know?
And it's like your mom taught you when you were a kid that if you lie, it becomes a bigger lie and a bigger lie, and then you end up forgetting, what did I lie about? And you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
you're right. Yeah.
When
what a tangle web we weave.
Oh my
first
gosh.
we practice to deceive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's have a little bit of fun here. And this wasn't in the questions that I shared with you ahead of time. But I just being authentic, real transparent, bad customer service drives me nuts. Like, my family knows that if I say my head is tingling, like I'm mad. Like it's about to be real. What things do people do that makes your head tingle? Like bad customer service. Like don't call anybody out.
Yeah, no, yeah.
What do people do that you're like, I'll give you some time to think about it.
Yeah, if you give me an example of yours, well, I'm going to try to, come up with fake names to protect the guilty.
Okay, perfect. So mine is the whole policy thing. Right? Oh, that's just our company policy. Yeah. I don't care about your company policy. I wish I remember something just happened just recently, and it's coming back to me. I think it was like yesterday or the day before. Somebody did something, and actually, I am going to use a name.
They deserve it.
No, because I'm going to talk about what they did that was amazing.
Oh,
because they could have.
Yeah.
They could have used the policy thing. So, Waiter, the app Waiter.
Yeah, okay,
right?
Yeah.
Super cool.
Absolutely.
Have you used it yet?
I have 2 kids, 2 and under, so we use it all the time.
All right.
It's tough to get out with that many
I
diapers
love
to
it.
change. Yeah.
That's true. So, it was Saturday night. Like, we're just oh my gosh, we just want to just chill and just have a quiet Saturday night. I didn't want to cook.
Right.
Brian didn't want to cook. So he was like, just order on Waiter. And he really wanted this certain item from Salty Joe's, right? The new barbecue restaurant in town. And so...
Great place, by the way.
It's so good.
Good choice.
And the atmosphere is just amazing. But we wanted our home atmosphere that night, but we wanted Salty Joe's. So we get on Waiter and we order... And I wanted a lemonade. They wanted root beer. Brian Pay wanted, and so drinks weren't on the Waiter app. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna call and just pay for the drinks separately. So I called, and long story short, I just paid for the drinks separately. Well, when the Waiter came, they didn't have the drinks. So I call, but when backing up to the policy, they could have very easily have said, oh no, ma'am, we don't do drinks through the Waiter app. Like the ice is gonna melt. They could have given me all these reasons and could have very easily said, well, it's just our policy. That's my pet peeve. I can't stand when people, well, it's our policy not to do that. And I'm like, you know what you can do with your policy? So
we're gonna have to really censor this.
We are.
So we'll stop that. We know where you're going.
What happened though? Nicole, I think, was the manager's name. Nicole, she was like, we can take your drink order and I'll just make sure it goes. Well, it didn't get there. So I called back and I'm like, can you just refund my drinks because they didn't come? And she was like, no, I already have. She sent somebody that works there on a Saturday busy night.
Oh, wow.
To my house with the drinks. She said, I'm sending a brownie too because I'm really sorry.
Oh, that's cool.
Turned what could have very easily been I'm mad situation and I don't know that I'm going to come back, turned me into a raving fan. So,
well, that's Marshall and Saul. They do a good job over there.
It's great.
They know their stuff. They're great guys.
So did you have time to think of something that just drives you crazy?
I think to me the key is it's 2 things. One, disrespecting time, which I think we covered earlier with the Chick-fil-A line.
Yes.
To me, my time's my most precious resource.
Absolutely.
Over money and all that. So, I hate it when people make you wait unnecessarily.
Yep.
But the other one is lie. Recently, my wife and I won't name the company, but we have a washerman. Now, I'm one of these guys that doesn't keep track of warranties and all this, but my wife is on the dot.
That's amazing.
And so we schedule our service appointment. And my wife takes off a day of work to be there because they no longer will tell you we're going to be there before noon or afternoon. It's 8 to 5 window.
Oh, my gosh. So you're taking time off work.
So she takes time off work because I think I'm in court or mediation or something. And not only did I get there, but the guy lies. And we're at the point where she's making a ton of phone calls. I get back from work. It's like 6 o'clock at night. It's dark. The baby's crying. She at the time was still pregnant with our youngest son. And we're like watching the parking lot, waiting for lights. And within a 30-minute window, it goes from he's about to be there to, I'm sorry, ma'am, the technician says he came out and nobody was home. Well, we were home. That'll really get you the rants.
Definitely.
And then we spend a ton of time with them, and they don't have any remedy to it. They didn't do the Salty Joe's, let me fix it now. It's, we can put you back in the same hopper that you were in before. 30 days, another 8 to 5 window, take off another day at work and hope this doesn't happen. Yeah. So that's my...
You got me. My head's tingling. Yeah. And it wasn't even my situation.
It's a reason that this is a company that's struggling to stay in business. It's an old stalwart.
Makes sense.
But it's kind of why these dinosaurs sometimes
So again, all this stuff comes back to thinking about the customer. What do they value? You talked about your time, right? Some people it's money. Some people it's just treat me like a human.
Right.
Yeah. That's good
and if
stuff.
you mess up, make it up, because we all make mistakes. I'm not here to say, look, I tell clients all the time, I'm not perfect. If you're looking for a perfect lawyer, don't hire Parker Layrisson, because I'm not.
Yeah.
The other guy not to hire, the lawyer who claims he's perfect, because he's lying or she's lying.
Yeah.
But you got to own up to it and make it right and be accountable. Clients love our customers. They love client accountability.
Absolutely.
We owe it to them.
Yep.
You know.
Well, and it just shows you're just a real person.
Yeah.
So I referenced Raving Fans a minute ago.
Yeah, great book.
Because that's a book that I read a long time ago. Again, I'm not a reader, so if I do read it and I love it, it's an even bigger deal.
You love the length; it's nice and short.
Definitely loved.
My whole
the length.
staff's read it. It's,
I think that we had all of our staff read it too. In fact, one of them has it right now. So here's my question about, and I see you. This might be even what you brought that book for, but is there a book that you would recommend people read that inspires or gives you some ideas for having great customer service?
It's called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and John D. Mann.
I've read this one too.
And again, it's short. It's parable style, and I think it's great. And it's essentially things your mom taught you when you were little. Things you learned in the Bible. You reap what you sow. It's golden rule type stuff, but it kind of breaks down how that can serve you in business. How you will prosper because you do more for others than you expect them to do for you. And it's made a big impact on my practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely one of my favorites. And then, of course, Raving Fans that I talked about. So I would love if anybody's that's watching, because we're on Facebook Live right now, to share their favorite books in the comments. So I noticed, and I'm going to start wrapping up a little bit here, but I checked out your reviews on Facebook and on Google.
I hope nobody dropped a bad one recently.
They're awesome. No,
thank you.
Because we do that for customers. We look at that stuff a lot, and it's funny that not knowing everything we were going to talk about, not knowing what you were going to say, is that the things that you're wanting people to think of you when they think of Parker Layrisson Law Firm is exactly what they're saying. And it all comes back to probably from this book and your mom.
Right, Mom.
Which is kind, caring, compassionate. Most of them talked about those types of emotions.
Yeah.
And even though I know that you're very knowledgeable, you wrote the book, but by far, most people were talking about the character traits of you and your staff, as opposed to, oh, he was knowledgeable and he made me all this money. And it all came back to that. So I'm just curious, did it surprise you that on a marketing podcast, I wanted to talk about customer service?
Well, I think I followed you long enough to know that I'm not surprised, because I think I see y'all do that so well. I'm not, my law firm's not a customer of yours, but my brother's campaign is, and I've attended your classes, and I see how you roll, and I know so many of your customers that, so not really. I mean, it's probably maybe surprised you wanted to talk to me about that, because I don't think don't think in
well
terms,
you should,
but thank you.
Yeah. So it just I've always thought, and I've had people push back on this when I brought it up, but I've always thought that customer service is, you talked about free, the cheapest and possibly the easiest way to do marketing, because it's so much easier to retain a client than it is to attract a new one.
And to me, a referral is such a better client over somebody that you get through another. I mean, the other stuff's important. It takes all to make the business run.
Yep.
But for us, the referred client is a better client than somebody who just saw our ad.
Yep. And I would imagine you probably have a great deal of referral business.
Almost 90% of our clients are referrals. And we track it, and you have to do the other marketing to keep the referrals going. Right. Because if you're not top of mind, then they don't remember to refer you. But
I'm not surprised by that at all, that 90% figure. Yeah, that's awesome. So one thing I just wanted, I was going to mention, along with the Facebook and Google reviews, I said there's kind of a theme there with how people were referencing the emotional side of how y'all are caring, kind, and compassionate, is to share with people. And I'd asked a minute ago, how would you tell them to get started? My tip would be that they should look at their reviews, because you may see a recurring theme, especially on the bad reviews, right? I mean, I've had a client before where it was the same issue over and over and over again. And I'm like, if you fix this one issue, just pay attention to what people are telling you instead of getting defensive and hot and how they're going to respond.
And a good way to help augment the reviews you get on social media is a customer service satisfaction review. You know, for us, every time we settle a case, when we're done, we ask the client how we do. And we don't always like the answers. It's tough. It's scary sometimes to ask for that grade, so to speak.
Right.
But you need to know.
Yep. That's how we get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Parker, do you have any last things about customer service that you want to share?
I think that's about it. I want to thank you. I just want to say y'all are knocking it out the park. And, today's focus is customer service, not say like Facebook performance or whatever. But I want to say you guys have helped me so much on Facebook. You know, I attended your class and one of Brian's SEO classes years and years ago. Yeah. And it helps us keep up with some of the biggest law firms in the state on Facebook. The things we studied from you. You didn't charge us a penny. You know, you really had a giver's mentality. It ended up resulting in referrals, like I mentioned earlier. My brother hired you. But basically, I just want to thank you and let people know that what y'all provide works. You know, and I've seen that for my brother, my friends, and myself.
Well, I loved having you on. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to watching everything that you do in the future.
Thank you, Kim.
All right, thanks.